that is the message. I mean, cattle have been so vilified by who? Who are the people that vilified it? The government, the UN, on and on. And a crazy thing is that the cattle are the answer. I mean, it's the only way we can do this fast. I mean, 2 or 3 years. And what's exciting, as Lynn said, is that there are a lot of the big factors aligning. Some of the big companies in this country are absolutely committing to the real deal, 100% grass fed, not fed on a feedlot forage, but grass fed in the field, and are willing to put some money into it. It's a very exciting time.
If I may, sorry to interrupt, I just want to name some of them. Microsoft is buying carbon credits from holistic grazing operations. Timberland, New Balance are all working with the Savory Institute now. So these are household brands. So just to reinforce Ridge's point, I mean, the change is happening whether people see it or not.
Right. And, we're talking with big companies like Myers, sells half of the natural beef in the country. Performance Food Group, a $50 billion distributor. These folks understand exactly what we're doing and want it. The challenge is to go from here to there. And that's, part of why we wrote the book, is to say that, these, small individual farms, we're not going to be able to get there. We have to collaborate. We have to have this collaborative system to get to scale. And, one of the challenges with the conventional system is you go to scale and it's totally detrimental. All the things you do, you harm the cattle, you harm the environment, you harm you kill the Gulf of Mexico, on and on and on. But the fact is, we can scale this grass thing remarkably, and the cattle will be happy. The humans that work with the cattle will be happy, and we can get volumes into larger processing plants. And the market absolutely is screaming for it now. And if we can get all those ancillary products like the leather, the timberland, and all these parts sorted out, I mean, it's a very exciting time. The time is right now to do this. And
one thing we haven't talked about yet, but we have to be sure to mention it, is and in the last chapter of our book, we talk about public awareness and public policies, and mention just a few of the salient ones, which is the subsidies for corn. What could be worse for our well-being and the well-being of the planet than that? And another is this requirement, this country of origin requirement. Right now, the small grass-fed beef producers in any grass-fed beef producers in this country are being harmed by unfair competition from imported overseas grass-fed beef that in fact is grass-fed, has not been fed grain, but is typically not grazed regeneratively to benefit the environment. So without that competition, if buyers, if customers could tell by the packaging that they'd rather support domestically raised beef than imported beef, but they're being misled. And that's a requirement that used to be there. Country of origin have to be there, but now companies can put product of USA on their package, and they do. Red American flags and the whole business. If they just take the meat from cattle born and raised overseas and grind it up and put it in a package, it's called product of USA. So
could be New Zealand, could be Argentina, could be Brazil.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it is in fact. So I think just those two things alone would be, getting rid of those things would just change the whole economic picture for the widespread adoption of these important environmental practices.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to Lynn's point, a lot of the systems that raise grass-fed beef elsewhere in the world are not regenerative in any sense of the word. Like in Australia, it's totally extensive. And
you want to explain, Ridge, that you mean continuous grazing instead of,
continuous grazing, no grain, terrible genetics for grass. But if you're going to grind this meat up, then you don't care about tenderness. You know, you can take a Brahma animal and grind it up and it'll be tender. So
There's
that's
some
kind
folks in Australia doing the right thing. I just want to give a shout out to the regenerative.
I agree.
But you're
I
right,
agree.
still a drop in the bucket. But I get
Right,
your
but
point.
there are some, but the vast majority of the meat that's coming in. But one of the things that's happening now with the cost of transport, all of a sudden it's becoming expensive to transport by container to the U.S. So there's all these things, and the interesting thing is, I know Seth is, you know, promoted this as helping the folks in Africa, but the reality is this America situation is pretty dire. You know, when you look at the Gulf of Mexico, and there's how many dead zones now? I mean, there's
400.
400
yeah,
according to National Geographic.
and that's caused by the subsidy and growing the grain over the whole central U.S. and transporting it to feedlots, and you have farmers in this country who are destitute. You know, they're poisoned by the poisons. They're committing suicide at incredible rates. I mean, you have this really sad situation in America, and we don't see it because we just don't see it. But the fact is, many of those people would embrace this new methodology. It's not a technology. That's one of the exciting things. It's not a technology. I mean, cattle, the rumen, photosynthesis have been around for eons, and they work.